Hello, guys. I am here today to speak about either or, selling out or win-win, and how these topics could make or break a relationship. And I'm Janet Broadbent, and I'm a relationship coach, and I'm here with my peer, great friend, and relationship coach as well, Marinna. And we are going to dive deep into the either or, selling out or win-win scenarios in relationships.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Okay, I'm excited about
Oh,
this, and
yeah.
I love this topic, Janet.
Yeah. Okay. So this is something that I've dealt with in my own relationships so much. The either or, like it either has to be this or this. Um,
Mhm.
like for instance, my teenagers would be in the shower doing their hour shower, and I would be thinking, oh my gosh, all these negative thoughts. They don't pay the power bill. They don't realize how many people need to get into the showers and get ready for the morning. And so it was, I'm going to time you for 5 minutes. You need to, get out or you're going to be in trouble or whatever. But how cool would have it been had I said something like, I am okay with an hour-long shower, and here is how you can help with the power bill. Or if you do it at 4 in the morning, I'm totally cool with that. Before people need to get in the shower or whatever, get ready. So this is this either or is something I am very interested in.
Nice, nice, nice. I love this topic. It's a big one. It's a big one
Yeah.
on so many levels. So if you ever, let's talk about either or. Like, what is an either or first before I dive in? Like, an either or to me would be it's either got to be this way or it's got to be this way.
Yeah.
Right? That's the way I see either or. Can you add to that?
Yeah, so that's exactly like, as we can work through any problems in relationships if we can see a bigger picture,
Hmm.
right? Is that
Hmm.
kind of where you're coming
Yes.
from?
Yes.
Is like seeing a bigger picture, like instead of just this or this, or you're in trouble, or like with children, this or this. Why not look at a bigger picture and go, okay, why is that person doing this, and why does it mean anything to me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of when you're coming out of the thing. What would like to say before we go into the solution is where's my words, an either or. So anytime you catch yourself in it's either going to be this way or it's got to be this way, you're in persona. So we've already
Oh,
talked about persona, right?
yeah,
In our first or second video, we talked
yeah,
about persona. So persona is like a mask you put on, a mechanism that you maybe are wearing or surviving in, something like that. That's a persona. It's not what's authentically who you are. It's something that you've put on and you're acting from that place. So if you're only seeing two options, you're in a persona.
oh. Which does that equate to being on the drama triangle as well? So,
Absolutely.
okay,
Absolutely. So
okay,
all uh, personas aren't really good or bad. It's just that they don't always work, right? They don't
yeah,
really bring us what we want because it's not us being authentic. And so when we're there, we're oftentimes also on the triangle. Like we might have a persona that's not authentic to who we are as a being that wants to have everything perfect, right? It's got to have it
yeah,
all perfect and everything's got to be lined up and
yeah.
right. And that's not who our authentic being is, but it's how we've learned to become, right? Well, that perfection persona could see things like the house has got to be clean or else I'm angry, right? Like
Right.
that's the way a perfection persona might be playing out this either or, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Or it's like,
So
okay,
the
you take care of your clothes or else you're going to have a punishment.
Yeah. Okay. So you could look at that picture, that scenario, and kind of broaden your mind a little bit to why do I want this to be clean by this very moment? Like,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
we do love a clean floor, and we don't want to trip and break a hip, right?
Right. Yep.
So, and I'm kind of being ridiculous, but if you can kind of think about it while you're in that persona or that either or, you kind of think it out and broaden your horizon just a little bit. You can go, well, do I have to have it clean? And is it something I could quickly pick up? If I
Mhm.
want it done so bad, like
Mhm.
maybe I'll quickly pick it up if it means that much to me.
Yeah.
Or could it
Mhm.
be done at a different time? Or,
Yeah, I really love when you say broaden your mind, Janet, because that's really what it takes. Because we so get in our stories when we're in persona and we're doing the either or, we're so in our stories. It's like the horses with I don't know what they're
the
called,
blinders,
the
those
blinders
blinders
on,
on.
right?
Yeah.
And they can only
Yeah.
see one way. So you literally have to broaden your mind to see other alternatives.
That's right. And it almost kind of makes your mind has to relax.
Hmm.
Like, and so that's why I kind of think it's cool when off and on, Marinna, when you have described things like we're dealing with our old story or our persona, you kind of have fun with it. And I think you do
Yes.
that so that you can kind of relax, your mind and go, oh, I am being a uh, snobby Sally or whatever. I'm being and you kind of have fun with it so
Hmm.
that the person's brain can kind of relax and go, oh, yeah, I'm doing that. Uh huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was definitely a skill that I learned at the Hendricks Institute when I studied with them. This comes a lot of the work that I teach actually comes directly from them.
Mm.
And I've just taken it and I have my own little spins on it. But this one specifically has come from them. And the main teacher, Katie, she would often say, well, how can you have more fun? How can you have more fun with this? Right? Look like you're kind of miserable over there. How can you have more fun with this? Right? Which really,
Yeah.
really helped because we can get into a serious persona too, right? Like all of this
Right.
is serious and I got to figure it out. And or like, oh my goodness, I just caught myself in the persona and I was kind of hard on my kid and you know what I mean? We can make it all serious. But that's just another persona, right?
Oh, it is.
It
Yeah.
is. It's just another persona, right? You
Yeah.
can use play and fun as a persona too. But the play and fun I'm talking about is more comes through this place of like, okay,
Expansion and
expansion and like
imagination
how
and
could the play loosen my mindset,
yeah.
right? Like maybe you name the persona, right?
Yeah.
And it's like like tight ass whatever,
Well,
tight ass Wally or whatever,
yeah.
right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
here's my tight ass Wally
Oh,
again trying
there
to
it
raise the
goes.
children. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
That's good. In relationships, when you kind of have fun with it and you go, wait a minute, let's expand this. What is it that you have in mind and what is it that I have in mind? And let's kind of see if there's a bigger, better way. Like,
Mhm.
expansion in a relationship is so important. And especially at my age, my husband and I are we're empty nesters and so we've got a lot more space and time and money to do the things and it's not all about the kids' schedule, it's about our schedule now. And so there's so many times I'll say, I want to do this and this and this. And he might say, well, fine, then I guess I can't do this and this and this. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's just kind of back up. Let's just relax here. Let's see. These are the things I had pictured in my mind today that I had forgotten to, portray to him or even communicate with him. What kind of feelings and thoughts did you have surrounding this situation? And it is amazing how so many times we take for granted that it's got to be this or this. It just in
Mhm.
our brain that's the way it was all day, so it's got to be that, right?
Yeah, and the world
Um,
calls that compromise.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I personally don't think that that's the best terminology for compromise, right? Like, oh, I got to compromise what I want so my wife's happy, right? Or vice versa. I got to compromise and not do what I wanted to do today because it's, I need to make sure he has his needs met too. And
What
that's
you like?
compromising.
You like to have your cake and eat it too?
Yeah, heck yeah. Why have the cake if you can't eat it?
Okay, tell me how you do it then.
Well, I love it. And you really explained it pretty well, actually.
Right.
But I'm the kind of person that likes to simplify everything, right? So my verbiage for this would be, how can I have what I want and you can have what you want,
Oh,
right? How can we both have what we want? So again, any kind of either or, well, either he can have what he wants or I can have what I want, but we can't have both. That's a
yeah.
persona. Who says we can't have both, right? Like, what if
Yeah.
he could totally do what he wanted in the day and you could totally do what you wanted in the day, and you could have plenty of together time? And you know what I'm saying? What if the world is filled with so many more possibilities than we even know, and we are limiting it with an either or, right? And all
Wow.
it takes is for us to broaden our mind, like you were saying,
Yeah.
right? Broaden our
Ask
mind and
some
start questioning.
questions.
Yeah, ask some questions. Yeah, how
Yeah.
can I have what I want and he has what he wants? It's
And
really
how
that
cool,
simple.
yeah, and how cool could we work through this and you know, yeah, things that are normally kind of stressful and kind of you know, how cool would it be if we actually flowed through this? Like, let's take taxes, you know, that's coming up, preparing your taxes for the
Yeah.
year. And you kind of snip back and forth about, ew, I hate that. It's so stupid anyway, blah, blah, blah. How cool would it be if you actually just kind of looked forward to it? Maybe got, had something special you got to do when you were done. And, you know, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe have a
Or ask,
jar
yeah, ask
of
some questions about how could actually filing my taxes this year be fun,
yeah,
right? What if it wasn't even about getting through them? What if we just asked a bunch of, we got to do a whole class on questions, Janet.
yeah,
We got to
I
do it.
agree.
These questions are so
I,
powerful. But a little
yeah,
toss here is like, what if tax season could be fun? Right? And we are just in so, I know. But it's like, what if we're so in our, right, our limited
yeah,
perspective
yeah,
that
right.
taxes just have to be done, right? And it's so
Yeah.
limiting. But if we were to ask some questions like, "Ooh, I wonder how much fun we could have with this. I wonder how much easier it could be. I wonder if we don't even have to pay this time. Like, and if we
Yeah.
do, maybe it's less than what I imagined."
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like asking questions could really broad. What questions do is it opens our brains up to more possibilities than just the one or two that we're seeing.
You know, I love just the word possibilities. Like, how cool would that be if we spoke that way to our little people when they were, you know, what are the possibilities, you know?
Oh,
Um, you know, I remember with my kiddos, I would say stuff like, you can only invite 5 friends to your party. I don't want 30 kids over at my house, you know. But how cool would have that been to just say, what are the possibilities of inviting everybody on your list, but still my house isn't trashed and you know, how what are the
yeah.
possibilities? How could we both be happy in this scenario?
Yes, and that is a win-win, right? The kid wins
Yes.
and you
Yeah.
win. The challenge, I think, and maybe you will have run into this yourself, is that people oftentimes aren't willing to broaden their minds enough to discover that, because I'm the parent, I'm right, and it's got to go my way. And so the kid just kind of loses out in the situation. I raised my kids that way too,
Yeah.
you
So
know?
when we're in the persona mode or on the drama triangle, we're not going to be open for these questions as much, right?
No.
Like we almost have to breathe and go, what are the chances of this being a win-win situation or, you know,
Yeah, first thing, you got to be willing. You got to
breathe.
be willing, right? And if you're
Yeah.
on the in drama on the triangle, then you're not probably going to be willing. And so, yeah, move your body, breathe, don't talk for a minute, right? Don't try to make those decisions when
Yeah.
you're there, because the decisions will not be made from what's authentic for you. It'll be made from drama, right? And create drama.
Yeah.
So don't talk, move your body, breathe, watch your emotions. And then after you do that, then you're more likely to have access to a different part of your brain than your fight or flight. And then
Absolutely.
and then you'll have a lot more access to questions and possibilities and exploration with your child about what could work. How could we do this? Kids are brilliant, and they
They
will come up
are.
with so many ideas you never even dreamed of if you give them the opportunity with a question of like, okay, how can you have what you want and I can have what I want?
Yeah, right. That is so true. Involving them in the solution
Mhm.
is such a great idea.
And
I
then
mean,
we're
they could
teaching
even
them how to do it. We're
yeah.
teaching them how, literally, how to do this in their own relationships in life.
You know what, Marinna, that is exactly my thoughts on all of this is how can we teach our kiddos so that they don't have to go through their life not knowing these things. Like me and you, like we stumbled upon these things by accident and sure just like no other way.
Yeah.
No other, I mean, it feels like when you're in a death, so to speak, like a spiritual death or a I don't know. But when you're down low enough and you start poking your head up going, there has got to be something better, then that is when I've stumbled upon this. It's because it's like,
Mhm.
wait a minute, something is not right here.
Yep.
And you probably experienced that too. There has got to be a better way.
Yep. Yep. Very
But
much
how
so.
cool would it be if we were able to train our kids? And I love that we're talking about doing with, using this concept with children because so many times, these videos that they're moms that are watching them and they have the little kiddos that are, get them into that drama triangle in about 2 seconds,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Just the screech of their voice can put the mom in that spot.
So totally. And especially if you have very many children and they're all talking with you at once, sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. For sure. So for those moms, what questions are there any more questions that want to be asked or answered
Wow.
around for moms in this way, right? And dads.
Right. So I see a lot of times with moms, I see, because they don't want to get the drama triangle, sometimes they just shut down. They just sell out or shut down. And,
Yes.
I've seen that.
Yes.
So
Yeah, we should bring the sellout piece up, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
the sellout piece is huge. So again, like at least the way that I'm perceiving it at this point in my life is that anytime we're in an either or, right? And it's somebody else's desire or my desire, there's an opportunity for one or the other person to sell out.
yeah,
And so it's like, well, what's so bad about selling out? Okay. So selling out, first off, creates resentment. Okay. So the more that we sell out on our own
yeah,
desires, we create that resentment with the person and we project it on the person that we love. Right.
yeah,
So if we have all this resentment, we're going to project it on our children. Right. If we're constantly selling out to our children and always giving them everything that they want, and we go without, we go without, we go without, our bucket is getting emptier and emptier and emptier and emptier. And then pretty soon we have resentment toward the kid, the person we love the most. Right. And that's so sad.
yeah,
That's so
yeah,
sad. So selling out damages not only our relationships, but it really damages the relationship with ourselves. Because what happens when you say, all right, you don't get your needs met? I look at it this way. I'll say this oftentimes. It's like setting up 10 children, right? 10 children come to your
mhm,
house for an ice cream cone, and you give it to 9 of them. And that 10th child has to go without. And that 10th child is you. How awful is that, right? You're going to start having resentment. You're going to start feeling like
yeah,
you don't matter. You're going to start
yeah,
thinking, there's something wrong with me. I don't love, you know what I mean? I'm not loved. I'm
yeah.
not taken care of. And you're doing it to yourself.
And that actually makes you matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally makes you mad and builds resentment and anger.
Yeah,
And then you tend to lash out at the other person more, especially if this is like in a romantic couple kind of a
yeah,
relationship. If
yeah.
you are constantly going here, 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 and giving, this goes back to our other video, right? Where we talk about giving and receiving. If you're constantly giving, you're
Mhm,
literally
mhm.
and making sure their needs are always met, but you're not taking care of yourself, you're selling out on yourself. And you're not taking care of yourself and you're creating damage in your relationship.
Mm, that
And
is
not
so
only
true
the relationship with yourself, but the relationship you have with your partner.
because you reflect it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you'll lash out on an empty bucket a lot faster than you will on a full one. If you're
That is
all
so
taken
true.
care of because you're making sure your needs are met, right? And so what I love is that one of the best ways to make sure your needs are met is to get out of that persona that sees it only as, well, he can either have his way or I can have my way, and broaden it to like, oh, how can we both have our way? How can we both have what we want? Right? And that takes a little bit. That takes a little bit, especially if you have somebody who's a little bit more stubborn. Right?
Mhm.
No, it's got to be this way.
Mhm.
Like if they're in a persona and you're not, that can be
Yeah,
a little challenging, right? So
right.
so
So
what are you
true.
going to do? What are you going to do if you want to be the one that finds the and or the win-win and they're not, and they're
Yeah, what if
down, right?
yeah,
Like these
yeah.
are some, I would say, some deeper things that people are going to bump up against. I've had many people come back to me and go, "What do I do?" Right? So,
Yeah.
and it's two ways. It's usually I'm the one that's selling out all the time and I can't seem to get myself to honor myself. Or
Mhm.
it's like, okay, well, I'm open to this, but the other person isn't.
Okay.
So let's see. What I would say is if the other person isn't, you'd still do the best you can to honor yourself as well as them. The best you can. If the other person's not cooperating, it's kind of up to them,
Yeah,
not you. You cannot force another
yeah,
person to cooperate and play with you, right? So you let
yeah.
them have their persona, you let them have their thing with as much love as you can. And then you take it on yourself to go, okay, how can I have what I want and they can have what they want? So that you're still in that energy of that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And, you said something about the relationship won't be very deep. Well, maybe you didn't say it in those same words, but the quality of your relationship is so much deeper if you can look at a bigger picture and not
Yes.
just either or. Like it's a fuller, richer relationship.
Yes.
I
This
have,
requires people, though, to be okay with not being right.
yeah,
Not always being right. So if there's someone that has a really hard time, like because they think if somebody else's viewpoint actually works better, then they're wrong and bad, it could trigger some deep stories. And this, I see this a lot. And that's why I'm bringing it up, is because you've got to be willing, if you're going to find the end, you've got to be willing to not always be right,
yeah, yeah.
which is a whole other video.
So, yeah, absolutely. I love it. I should be jotting these things down. Great ideas. Um, so let me give you an example of that in my life with just, my husband and I. He got done doing something in the bathroom. I think he was shaving or something, and I found myself cleaning up after him. And I noticed now that I'm noticing my emotions and my stories in my brain, I noticed I had a story about this. I was cleaning it up and I thought, I'm there's a story cropping up in my brain. So I thought about it for a minute, thought about the emotions and the different things that was going on. And I said, hey, is there a chance we could chat about your routine and see if there's something we could do that would eliminate that spill right there and this one and this, could we change some things around so that it's not like this? And he automatically said, I'm just going to do it in the other bathroom. And he took his shaving stuff and headed into the other room. And so in his mind, he's going, I'm a bother. um,
Mhm.
I'm just going to move out of her way. She wants her way a particular way. And I thought, darn, that is not what I was looking for. So I stood
Mhm.
there for a minute and I'm like, that is not what I had in mind. I didn't want to just like crowd him out of my space. I wanted to see if the soap pump or the shaving cream thingy wasn't working right and it was spurting it all over. I wanted to see what was going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we could change that up a little bit. So it was fascinating because my husband's not learning the things that I'm learning. So I work with somebody that's not actually on the same page with me, and it's helping me to articulate my words better so
Mm.
that I'm not just expecting him to read my mind or know exactly
Yeah.
what it is when I say a persona or the
Mhm.
win-win. He doesn't understand what win-win is. So I went in where he was at and I said, Oh man, I think you took me wrong. I love that you're in my space and I'm in your space. And I was just hoping that I could see a bigger picture of what your routine is so that we could kind of come up with something that would make it uh, not as messy. Like I wouldn't need to come and clean up behind you or whatever. And I said, I'm imagining that I made you feel pushed out. And he said, yeah, you did.
Mhm.
And I'm like, did I have a pretty intense look on my face? And he's like, yeah. Um, and I said, did my tone seem kind of nitpicky? And he's like, yeah. And so it was kind of neat because we just kind of sat down and I'm like, here's my goal. My goal is that I grow old with you and have a relationship that grows rich and deep. And I don't want you to just be over there doing your thing and me over here, unless that's, the way that we all like it. But I really want to interact with you and catch my stories before they become me being sarcastic or saying, pushy things or rude things to you. Um, anyway, we worked through it, Marinna. We went through the routine of what he does. And turns out the soap dispenser had a clog in it, and the towel needs to be in a different location. And like we worked through it, and it's beautiful. It is perfect.
Ugh,
So it's like, I know that's a tiny little thing,
that's
but it
not a
was,
tiny little thing, Janet. That is like I couldn't have asked for a more perfect example. It was so beautifully done.
well, I'm using these tools that you have been giving me. And I'll tell you what, why didn't I get these tools 30, 40 years ago?
What I loved about your example and your share was you literally caught yourself, right? Like you could have made up a story like, "Oh, I'm just never understood,"
I'm
right?
always cleaning up after him.
Right. I'm always
Yeah.
cleaning up after him, and then I say something, and he never understands me, and
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. Right? You could have done that. And instead, what you did is you brought in your mind. You questioned, oh, that did not have the result I was looking for. I wonder how he felt about that, right? Like you questioned all of that. So you had to get out of, well, I'm right. You totally had
Yeah.
to let go of that and go, what do I really want here? I want a relationship that's deep and rich, not one where we're living, in the same house but in
Yeah.
different locations, right? You chose to do that. And then you still went, how can we both have the win? Right? And that looked
Yeah.
like going and having another conversation with him and telling him and imagining using the communication skills that we
Yeah.
teach and
But listen,
and
look.
and
Yeah.
having that experience. What a joy
Yeah.
for both
Yeah.
of you. Like he didn't have to know all those skills to still have it be a win-win.
That's true. That's true. When I did the listening speaking, he didn't have his cue card that's going, okay, this
Right,
is now what I need to say. But those
right.
words, I imagine you felt pushed out. Like that is something I learned from you and
Hmm.
from those cue cards. Um, when you lay the red carpet down, so to speak, for understanding and compassion,
Hmm.
even on small things, you find that win-win situation. Like,
Yes.
and it's just like, wow, I'm so glad we didn't avoid that bullet, dodge it. I see so many older people just dodging things and instead of hitting it head on and going, okay,
Well,
this
and
is kind of,
a lot of times it's because they don't know how.
yeah,
They don't know
yeah,
how.
yeah,
Not that they don't want to, but they just don't know how.
right. Yeah, so true, Marinna, so true.
I love the compassion you showed him. I love your willingness to be open and go, "Oh, that's not how I meant it." And then go to listen to him because you could have had your stories about everything he shared there too and got triggered. But instead you listened with compassion to what his experience was. And then
Yeah,
you were able to come up with a solution that worked for both of you. It's the
yeah,
most yeah, one of the most perfect examples.
cool. Hopefully I can keep clear in my brain and think, what are those thoughts? Because that's right where you need to be is just aware. It's
Yep,
just aware,
just aware.
awareness. Yeah.
Awareness shifts everything,
Yeah.
right? Yes, there's more skills you want to do, but if you can be aware and catch yourself before you lash out, before you push them away, before you make it up that they're all bad and wrong and you're the one in the right?
Yeah.
Before you do any of that, if you can be aware, that's huge.
I mean, you can jump over the ledge, but climbing up that ledge is really hard. Once you've kind of gone over that with
It is a
being on the
lot
drama
harder.
triangle, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh,
Yep.
oh.
It gets so much easier when you catch it like what you did. When you
Yeah.
catch it,
Yeah.
when you like, oh, before you made up all those stories, before you lashed out further, before you took it personally, and you caught yourself in it. It's so much easier to not have to try to climb out of a deep dark hole.
Now I've given you a good example of me doing it right. I'm sure there's many examples of me not doing it right through
Yeah.
the week, but I know the feeling now,
Yeah.
Marinna. The
Uh-huh.
difference of the feeling when you do it wrong versus now I remember disciplining my kids and I remember the feeling and it was not right.
Yeah.
I remember going, this is not good. I don't know why, but it is not right. It's how I saw it done as a child, and it
Right.
was how it was done. But I knew inside it was right when I did it right. Like, and that is what I'm looking for is what does it feel like?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
pause and go, what does this scenario feel like? Oh, that is not what I had in mind. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Yep. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. So my brain's going back to I had shared a couple of examples, and one was that, like, what do you do with when somebody else isn't willing, right? And
Yeah.
it may not work out as good as like what worked out with you, but the thing is I'm betting at this point you're using these skills so much your mirror has changed. You're loving yourself so much your mirror has changed, right? Like
Oh,
it's easier, and like it all becomes easier when your mirror changes, right?
yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that makes a difference for people that when you say, well, that my husband's just unwilling, a lot of that's your mirror. Are you willing?
Yeah. Are you
Right?
willing?
Are you willing? Are you willing to not be right? Are you
Right.
willing to use the skills? Are you willing? Okay. And then back to the one I was also going to talk about, because I brought up two examples, one of which is what if you're dealing with somebody who's not
Yeah.
willing? And the other one is I just can't get myself to do it. Right? Like I just keep
Yeah.
selling out and I keep selling out and I keep selling out and I don't know what to do about it because I can see myself selling out, but I don't know what to do about it. And especially this happens, at least for a lot of parents with their children. It
Okay.
is still, even after all these years of working on it, it's still challenging for me with my children. I still sell out with my children, right?
How do you know when you have sold out? How do you
Well, that's
feel?
such a great question. It feels off. You remember how you were talking about that? Something
Yeah.
inside feels off. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh, that was not the best way for me to handle that situation, right? And yet I already said yes and da da da. You know what I mean? I might be even halfway done with the thing I told him I would do that I didn't really want to do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So my
Mm.
suggestion, I'm sure a lot of parents are laughing, like, yes, 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 I
Yeah.
do this and I can't help myself. It's so much easier to honor myself with my husband than it is my children, right?
Yeah.
Like there's something
Yeah.
about parents where I don't know if it's imprinted or where it comes from exactly, where this need, this deep need to make sure our children survive, you know what I mean? And
Okay.
part of that, especially nowadays, is to help them be happy.
Yeah. So I think it starts when they're born, Marinna. They're totally helpless. They would not survive if you did not stay up at night and feed them and take care of them, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So that's saying your bigger yes or your littler yes for your bigger yes, right?
yes, yes.
And so you say yes to getting up to feeding them as soon as they open their mouth and complain.
Yeah.
I didn't let my babies complain very long about being hungry before they were fed
Yep.
and
True.
changed.
Mhm,
And we just forget to shift gears, it feels like. Like
mhm.
they are no longer an infant in my arms.
Yeah, yeah, they aren't, and it feels like they are. it feels like their life is going to just suck and they're going to die if you don't
I
bend
know.
over backwards for them. Still,
Yes,
yes.
yes. So
So even like I've had so many moms reach out to me and be like, how do I honor myself? How do I honor myself when I'm over in overwhelm with my children? You know, it feels like a constant sellout for moms. Yeah, I don't really want to be getting up in the middle of the night. And yet we've talked about the small yes and the larger yes, right? The larger
yeah,
yes is to take care of your children, right?
yeah,
Versus let them starve or you know,
yeah.
go without clothes or
Or
whatever, right? The
take
large
care
yes
of the
is that
responsibility that the commitment you already made to the
yes,
baby.
exactly. You made a commitment bringing this baby here.
Yeah,
And the larger yes or commitment is for you to take care of that child. And
yes.
yet there's also this, and how can I take care of me too?
Yeah.
Right. And
Wow.
this is where the whole win win comes in is like, yes, I will get up in the middle of the night and take care of my children. And how can my
Ooh,
needs be met?
yes, the and. How will I get a nap in the day? Will I, you know, hire someone to come and take care of all the kiddos while I take my bath and nap and all that stuff? Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, I love that.
And
Mhm.
would be my key to this. Like,
Yeah,
and how can you have what you want? Right. So the
yeah.
reason that I've seen anyway with a lot of my clients is the reason that people have such a hard time with taking care of themselves and they can see I'm just not doing it, I'm not doing it, is their self-love is too low.
Yeah.
They're they
Yeah.
have a so we all have like this thermostat, okay? Like a thermostat on your wall, right? Of how much love you can handle based on how much you've given yourself and all these kinds of different things like how you were raised and all kinds of stuff sets our thermostat setting, okay? For how much love we can receive. So just the simple thing by including yourself into the equation, like how can I have what I want and that other person have what they want, takes more self-love to do that. So if your self-love tank is low, you're going to have a really hard time upping that thermostat very quickly. Okay, so what I would
Mm.
suggest is start focusing on giving yourself those feelings. And so those feelings start naturally raising the thermostat, and then it makes it way easier to start including yourself. It's not an effort at that point because you love yourself. You're going to naturally start including yourself more.
Oh, it's the feeling that you generate inside of you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. That will raise the thermostat setting of any thermostat that you have set is self love.
Mm,
If you have a thermostat for how much money you're willing to bring in, start loving yourself and your money will increase. If you have a thermostat
mm.
set for how good you can handle life, start loving yourself and that will start increasing. So love is such a high frequency, right? It's such a high frequency and it feels so good in our body that when we start consistently giving that to ourselves, we start being able to handle bigger and better and bigger and better and bigger and better
And
as we grow. Hmm?
does it seem like that all of your relationships are affected by love? Like
Mhm.
not just your relationship with your, like your intimate partner or your child or whatever, but your relationship with money, your relationship with work, your relationship with health
Yeah.
is affected by how you generate the love inside of you,
Yes.
right?
All of it is a reflection of what you're doing to yourself, right?
Mm,
Everything outside of you is just a reflection of the way you handle yourself and how you are with yourself. So it just stands to reason that the more you give to yourself, the more you love yourself, the more you embrace yourself, the more you respect yourself, the more you love yourself in all those ways is going to naturally change your thermostat, which calls for a different mirror.
mm. It's just all hooked. It's all connected. All of these videos that we're making, they're all connected,
It
you
every
know?
single relationship that we have stems from the relationship we have with ourselves. Period. Every single one of them. I don't care if it's the relationship you have with the earth, the relationship you have with your pet, the relationship you have with money, the relationship you have with your body. Like all of our relationships are based on how much love we're giving ourselves.
Yeah. You
Every
know,
single bit.
it is so true. So true. I remember not liking my mom and dad and thinking that they didn't know anything. And I remember as I learned to love myself, I adored them. Like
Yeah.
I adored them.
Yep.
And I don't think they changed that much, but yeah.
But you sure did, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Like it all
That's right.
boils down to self-love.
Yeah,
Like all these skills, everything we're teaching, really at the root of all of it is self-love.
so true.
That's all it is.
So
It's
true.
just easier ways of doing it or different ways of doing it, and it all changes everything. I love it.
I
Because
agree.
it's so simple. It's such a simple thing to do,
It is simple.
right? Like, and some people will be like, it's not simple. It's not necessarily going to be easy depending on what stories you have, but it is so simple. So simple when you move through the stories, when you get past that crap you got up going on up there, right? Love is actually at the core of all of us. It's not even something we have to generate at that point. It's who we are.
Yeah. And it's so healing and so everything. It's everything. But when you're in the addiction of of not of not caring for your, I mean, I said addiction, but I don't know if that's a good way to describe it. But when you're in the habit of not caring for yourself and not loving yourself, it is such a challenge. It is literally, I have to sometimes just meditate on that piece. Like,
Hmm.
I literally have to turn everything off and put everything away from me and meditate to actually feel that love.
Hmm. Yep. And most people do for a while until it gets to be habitual to love instead, right?
Yeah,
But I would love to touch into the addiction piece because it does become an addiction, right? We get
right.
different hits of chemicals in our brain, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And this plays into, dang it, I had it come up when you were talking. Our core story, right? Okay, that's
yeah,
how I wanted to say it. Was like why it's so challenging sometimes to love us is because there is a barrier of something. Okay. That barrier is often shame. And we
mhm,
have to be willing to go through that shame to see the truth of ourself, which is not what we've made it up to be. Right. And so
right,
because we have to go to that shame, like it's like, okay, I'm gonna love myself. And so I turn in and I go through this. And then inevitably what's gonna come up is all the things that are wrong with me, why I can't love myself. And all those things that are wrong with me are very, very connected to shame, and it's connected to your core story. And we'll go over core story in another video. So hopefully everybody
yeah.
listening doesn't feel like, what's the core story? Did I miss something? Didn't miss anything. We're getting there, right?
Yes, and I love how
Core
you
belief.
connect shame with the core story. I
Say that
want us
again.
to do that. I love how
Yes.
you connected shame with it, with the
Yes.
core.
Yes. Yes. I have a suspicion that shame is the feeling every single one of us are running from.
Yeah,
Like the core feeling, right? I have a suspicion and
I do
I
too.
can't prove it yet, but that's my suspicion, right? And so we've got to get past that barrier of shame in order to even begin to see the truth of who we are,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And there's methods and ways we can talk about that later. But for now, what I'm going to say is practice being okay with the shame and practice being in a space of love with the shame. Like, don't try to make the shame go, but also bring love in. And wow,
Mm,
wow, wow, wow. Everything will change at that point in such a big, big, big way.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Okay, that's the either or, selling out, win-win. But the thing I liked the most was the and. So I love that. Okay.
Yeah. The and is actually win win, right? If you look at it
Yeah.
as the and.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Super cool.
Awesome. Okay. Any other questions that want to be asked before
No,
we wrap up?
I think that's it. That feels complete. Yeah, that feels like
Yeah.
a complete. And I've got a
Awesome.
direction for our next video, so be
Yay.
ready.
I love it.
Be ready.
I'm having lots of fun with you. Okay,
Yeah.
and so for our listeners, like again, like if you have questions, if you have a topic you want to explore or a scenario you would like us to unwind for you read online, like post it. Post it below, and we'll get back with you and create a video, potentially create a video around it.
Awesome. That's so cool. Well, if they subscribe, will it just pop our videos up automatically as we make them?
It should. Well, they've got to turn the notifications on. So you
Okay.
can subscribe and it won't let you know a new video's there, but if you hit the bell or whatever it is, that
Yeah.
sends you notifications when a new video is posted.
Sweet.
So yeah,
Yay.
that's
We'll
awesome.
be chatting with them soon.
Yes, we will.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Marinna. I love
Thank
it.
you, Janet. And thank you guys for showing up and watching and learning and valuing you and your relationships enough to learn new skills. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.